Hey guys, thank you for tuning in once again. It's wonderful to have you, and I look forward, as usual, to serving you powerfully by inspiring you, empowering you, and educating you about a subject that is very dear to my heart. Today, we are going to take a deep dive into how to use our intuition. Now, this is such a wonderful topic of discussion, not necessarily topping, but it could be a wonderful topping if you like pizza like I do. I haven't tried it yet or mine, but this will be definitely an interesting take on pizza. So, intuition, why is it so powerful? Why it's priceless to develop it, and why you should strive to reconnect and discover how your innate intuition works, because we all do have intuitive abilities. However, most of us are trained out of them, and we'll take a deep dive into why and how to get back to that natural state of intuitive thinking and ability to perceive information that's not necessarily available to our logical, rational part of the mind. Now, in order to have this conversation, here is a little necessity. Maybe you heard me saying this before if you've tuned in and watched any of my previous episodes and lessons, but remember this: the mind works like a parachute. It only works when it's open. So I invite you to keep a very open mind during this conversation and entertain all of the ideas I'm going to offer you, because this is a topic outside of rational thinking and popular discussion. So I do invite you to keep a very open mind as we go through. Now, why do you want to learn your intuition is the first question we're going to begin with, and what I invite you to really consider. Why? Because without a strong why, you will give up, or you won't do the effort necessary to really develop and reconnect to your intuition. I'll tell you why I use my intuition, so to act as a sort of inspiration or an idea of what my why is. I am fully committed to creating an extraordinary life for myself. And if I rely on my logical mind to do this for me, I'm going to end up with an average, mediocre life of boredom or doing what everyone else does. That's why, to me, having a very strong intuitive guidance and perception is essential, because it's going to take me where my soul is meant to go in this lifetime, rather than where my mind wants to take me, which most in 99.99% of the times it's to keep me inside my comfort zone, safe and sound. Well, this is great, but I'm not here to survive, because our innate natural state is to thrive, not to survive. Because of this is why we are the predominant species on this planet, that in one way it's shaping it and most likely will end up, unfortunately, destroying the environment, at least for our own self, because we have so much power. We have the dominance over all the rest of the species and life on this planet. We have it because we're not here to survive. We naturally thrive. We have everything necessary, if we learn how to use it within us, to thrive effortlessly. And this is where intuition comes in. I'll give you a short story. Like, over the last 2 or 3 years, I've heavily relied, reconnected, and really built a very strong intuitive abilities based on what I knew already were my intuitive tendencies or how my intuition was expressing itself within me, because with every person is different, and we're definitely going to take a deep dive into how it might be, not might be, but how is it occurring within you. Everyone has an intuitive ability. Every single human being has an intuitive ability. The question is, how trained are you out of it? That's all it is. It's usually most strongly expressed during early childhood and in childhood, and then eventually through social programming, through nagging of parents or other authority figures like parents and anyone else, school for example, and so on. We are taught out of it because most people have no concept of what intuition truly is. So my invitation is to really sit down and consider, why is it important to you to develop your intuition? What are you meant to miss upon, or what kind of opportunities you'll be giving up if you don't develop your intuition? What if you do, and what if you don't? Because without a strong why, again, you won't have the time or the desire to work on this aspect of yourself, which I do recommend that you do. Because again, if you want to live a quiet life of desperation and mediocrity, don't develop your intuition. Shut off this video and go do something else. Watch the Kardashians, for example. This is going to be highly educational, I'm sure of it. However, if you want to create an extraordinary life on your own terms, and you want to create it effortlessly and for things to magically come together, I cannot over-recommend intuition at all. Like, it's going to be a very, very humble for me to say that you should develop your intuition. No, you must develop your intuition. You must. And intuition, like every aspect of yourself or dimension of the human condition, is like a muscle. You can build it up. The more reps you do, the stronger your muscles get. And I'm going to give you all of the little hacks and tools you can apply today to start developing it. Now, as I mentioned, intuition is something that each and everyone is gifted with. The question is, do we realize that we have it? And when it shows up, do we recognize it? And how to recognize it? And how does it usually shows up in our life? Because it may be in various ways, but it always does. And there are things that are necessary really to be able to hear, see, feel, or know something through your intuition, because that's just how it actually comes about. So what is intuition? Let's think about or talk about what intuition truly is. Intuition is the sixth feeling that we have, or the sixth sense, or the sense that allows us to perceive information that is not coming through our five physical senses that are part of our body. Feel, touch, sense, hearing, seeing, tasting, smelling. These are the five physical senses. They are part of the body. However, to get a little bit deeper esoterically, the body is just a vessel. For me, what I call me, my consciousness, my soul, my spirit, what is truly my essence, to be able to have this human experience. We are spiritual beings, to put it into simple words, having a human experience. And that sixth sense, or this actual spiritual sense, is the intuition. Because you don't have eyes, and therefore you can see. You have eyes because you can see. And here is a very interesting thing to think about. When do you go to sleep and you dream a dream, how real does your dream feel? What do I mean by this? Can you hear it? Can you see it? Can you touch it? Can you smell it? Can you experience all the senses in your dream? If you reflect deeply on this for a moment, you will notice that you can. But are you in your body while you dream? Of course not. Your body sleeping in your bed, you are in your dream. So what are you feeling these, or what sensations are you using to gather all this sensory data? Through this ability of our soul or our true essence to feel, experience, see, taste, and so on things, not through the body, but the body's extension that further allows us to take those abilities or senses outside of this, or outside in this physical environment. So the sixth sense, in essence, is the sense that taps into what we don't see, what we don't touch, what we don't smell, what we don't taste. It's a field of energy, a field of information, the field that makes everything there is. Again, keep an open mind. This is a necessity for this talk to fully develop. But I'm sure that if you hear and looking for information on how to develop and use your intuition, you're already open to the idea that there are things that exist beyond what your eyes can see, your ears can hear, and so on. Because, simple example from everyday life. Can you see the radio waves that, for example, power your mobile device and enable you to get online whenever you want and watch a video or text your friend or whatever? No, you can't. But they're there, and you know they are, because that's what enables you to be able to use your mobile device. Right? For example, if you take a prism and align it so the sunlight passes through it, somewhere on the opposing wall or surface, you will see the whole rainbow of colors. You've probably done this at some point in your life, and you notice this, how when the sunlight refracts and breaks down to the full spectrum of light, you see each and every individual color. But when you look outside, what do you see? Do you see these colors anywhere? No, you don't. But you know that the rainbow is made out of the sunlight, or all of these colors are present in it. So there's a lot of things that are already there that our eyes are not designed to see. So we cannot fully rely on our physical senses of our body because they're very limited. Another example of this is sound. Our ears have a very specific spectrum or frequency band of sounds it can hear. Below or over, you cannot hear anything. For example, if you have a dog and you have one of these dog whistles, you can blow the whistle and don't hear anything. But what happens to your dog? He hears it right away and comes by, right? Or reacts in a certain way. Well, it's the very same thing with our ears. Our ears are not designed for specific sounds and so on. Once you understand this, it's very easy to realize why intuition is so essential, because intuition is that universal sense that allows us to hear, see, taste, smell, and so on, all of the things outside of our physical senses' ability to perceive. It's, in a way, overlapping ability to perceive information that's unavailable to our physical senses, or information, because all the senses that we have, all they do is they feed information into our brains that pass it to our intangible part of called the mind, and we have an experience. So the senses are like data collectors. They collect the data is processed, and then we have an experience. So intuition is that sense that allows us to gather data outside of what our body can collect, and gives us the ability to have a very, very deep level of experience that goes beyond what I can touch, what I can see, what I can smell, what I can hear, and so on. It allows me to tap into a different dimension of reality, because it is reality. Just again, as I gave the example, the fact that you don't see radio waves or radioactive waves for that matter, or radioactivity, doesn't mean that it's not there. Just like, again, you don't necessarily in daylight when you walk outside see the light beams coming from the sun one by one, but you can feel the heat on your skin. Or if you have one of these solar panels, you can generate electricity and charge your phone or other devices, right? So there's a lot of things that we don't perceive physically that are there. So we cannot rely on our five senses to give us a clear description of reality, of what truly is there. We have to develop our intuition to be able to tap to this field outside of our perception. This is why intuition is priceless. It allows us to hear, taste, see, know, feel, and so on, things beyond what our bodies are capable. And by being not physical, it allows us to go beyond space and time, which is a whole different thing. We can go and tap into information from the past. We can go and tap into information from the future, because outside of the physical realm, space and time don't exist, because space and time only makes sense in the context of here and there, or I'll meet you here at this point in time, right? It's always related to time. Space and time are interconnected, and they have to do with physical reality, because there are dimensions and so on. This is why intuition is priceless, and it's a must-develop muscle that you can develop by doing the reps. And I'll explain exactly what exercises you can do daily to start working and awakening your intuition, depending on where you're at already, with how well you are aware of your intuition, how it expresses itself in yourself, and how you can actually take full advantage of it. And as I mentioned before, again, if you watch any of my videos, this is one of my most favorite quotes, and that is that whether you think you can or you think you can, you are absolutely right, as stated by Henry Ford. And if you go back and look at what Henry Ford was capable of doing at his time with his education and his background, it was amazing. It was extraordinary, the success he had and what he was able to achieve in his lifetime. And that was all based on this very simple but fundamental thought, or distinction to be exact. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Your thinking is always right, because whatever you decide is true will become true, because your mind, our psychology is wired in such a way that the mind's primary function is to validate and justify why do you feel a certain way, or why do you think in a certain way, and bring you more evidence of that. So if you think that you can not develop your intuition, for example, or that you don't have intuition, or that intuition is bogus or a hoax, or whatever you want to call it, then intuition in your world does not exist. But if, on the other hand, if you think that you can, that you know how to, and you will develop your intuition, you will. Again, with time, patience, and consistency. That's all that's necessary. Regardless of what field you want to succeed in life, the two factors that bring you to that success is time and consistency. period. Just like in the gym. If you go to the gym and you do the proper exercises over time, you can expect to develop muscles. Simple as that. And those muscles, again, this is an analogy we can use in any aspect of life, regardless if it's personal development, professional development, wealth, building wealth, and so on. You do the reps, the results will show up for them or talk for themselves. So all you have to do is do the reps and have the desire to do it. And as I stated before, developing your intuition is a priceless skill to have. And I'll tell you even more why is this so and why you should be concerned about developing your intuition and normalizing it, making it something normal that you rely on in your life. Because I've been relying on my intuition to lead me to where I am in life today, rather than sitting down and contemplating, using my rational part of the brain to just like think and think and think and try to get rich or whatever. And here is why. Because the logical, rational part of the brain and mind can only build a house with old bricks or from the information that it already has. It can reconfigure an infinite amount of time or infinite amount of configurations, all of the thoughts, ideas, and knowledge you have gathered up to this point, but it cannot create a new thought or idea. New thoughts or ideas, knowledge, and so on comes from a different dimension. It comes beyond what you have acquired through going to school, watching videos, reading books, and whatever it is, right? Whatever methods you've been using so far to gather information. Intuition is that ability that gives you access to information that's beyond the human dimension of knowing. It comes from the universal database, if you wish. As long as you trust and believe that it's there, you will show up in such tremendous ways in your life. It will be humble for me to say that will change your life if it hasn't already. Once you realize how it actually works and how it shows up in your life. Simply put, intuition is an extrasensory perception, or ESP. And there's a lot of studies, and I'm going to give you solid examples how this has actually been researched by CIA, Stanford University, and other leading institutions over the years for a long, long time. It's nothing new at all whatsoever. And it's totally mainstream, but nobody's talking about it because let's put it this way, there are not many institutions out there which wants you to know intuitively what is true and what is crap. Because this is something that intuition allows you to do. To simply, easily, and quickly create a distinction between this is crap and this is absolutely fucking true. And this is why it's priceless. And it comes down to any interaction you have with other human beings and anything you read, learn, and so on. You can automatically have a very clear sense of, yes, this is true, this is crap. Or this person is someone I can do business with or be in a relationship or whatever and so on. It just gives you such a depth of perception. You can literally almost read someone's mind. Some people do actually, because all thoughts are frequency, and just like a radio can tune in into a specific frequency so you can listen to the specific station. If you know how to tune your mental radio, you can tune into people's thoughts and so on and so on. This is a lot more advanced and higher level conversation, but just to throw this out there, because everything is absolutely possible. This is something that I want you to know. Everything is absolutely possible. It's just some things are more probable than others in your specific situation, right? Because it all has to do with a person's abilities and beliefs and so on and so on, training, where they stand, because amateur athlete cannot expect to over endure or outperform a professional athlete. You have to get to that level, and how you become a professional is by the time, effort you put in to get there, and by the how much you stretch your comfort zone and abilities. And with time and consistency, you can stretch your intuitive abilities to what people call paranormal or whatever. There's nothing paranormal about it. The fact that most people have no concept or understanding about something doesn't make it paranormal. It's absolutely normal. That's the sad part, that people or society is made to believe that there are magical things and so on, and paranormal activities and so on and so on. There's nothing magical and nothing paranormal. Everything is absolutely normal. If it's occurring in this reality, it's absolutely normal. It's just the fact that we have no concept or rational explanation of what it is doesn't make it unnormal. Not everything has to fit the box, because if it fitted the box, life would be boring, mediocre, and a quiet desperation. Again, intuition is that skill that will get you to create an extraordinary life, and I truly mean it. Because if you want to create an extraordinary life or have a life that you enjoy, that go beyond what you can imagine, the only thing that's going to get you there is your intuition. Because as I mentioned already, the mind can create only a house with the blocks or the bricks it already has. It cannot create all of a sudden something new. That information can only come, or this guidance or inspiration can only come from a different dimension. And this is by using your intuition. This is why intuition is essential and a precious skill to develop in any walk of life. Doesn't matter. Personal life, professional life, social life, you name it. All of the greatest minds, creators, authors, and you name it, they've always came, like, they never sit down and be like, oh, I want to be inspired and think about it. Whatever they created came to them in the form of intuitive inspiration or through intuition. It was never a conscious process of sitting down and contemplating and reflecting and thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking. Because if you've noticed, if you reflect on this for a moment, you would see that sitting down and contemplating more and more about a challenge you have or a problem or something you want to create doesn't give you better ideas or new ideas of how to go about it. It's just all of a sudden, later on or at some point, the ideas come to you by themselves. It's not when you want it, it's when you're able to tap or connect to this field. So what are the types of intuition, or how can we expect intuition to express itself within us? How can we hear it? How can we perceive it? So there are four predominant main types of intuition, or ways that intuition is being expressed in each and every one of us. You can have one, you can have more. Usually it's one is predominant and then there is a secondary one. In my case, the type of intuition that is most predominant within me is claircognizance, or this means that I get downloads of ideas. Like, I just know that if something is true, all of a sudden, like as I'm sitting, an idea strikes me, like all this thought of an idea comes in my mind, and it's something I know it's not something coming from me because I never thought about something like this. It's just a totally original idea. Sometimes it's philosophical about life, sometimes it's about my business, sometimes it's about an adventure I want to go. It could be thousands of different things, but it always comes in this specific way. The second type within me that is highly expressed, or is more secondary, it's still highly expressed but it's secondary, is my clairsentience, which means that I can feel things outside of me. Like, for example, I have a it's like some people call this gut feeling. when you get a feeling about a situation, about a person, and so on. So I have a very strongly expressed feeling, especially when it comes down to people or situations and so on. So that's the second way, at least in how in me intuition is expressing itself. The other two ways are clairvoyance. Clairvoyance is being able to see things through your mind's eye, but not just by imagination, but things just coming into your mind's eye from somewhere. In my case, this is not how I perceive intuition. I never had those visions beyond when I'm in my subconscious state of mind, when I'm in meditation. I get visions like this, and maybe they're through my intuition, or maybe they're just a product of my subconscious mind, kind of like a dream. And the fourth way is clairaudience, or hearing things. All of a sudden you hear something in your ears, without your ears, but you hear something within. And for example, all like Mozart and all these great composers and musicians have a very strong clairaudience, because what they do, if you study their process, because my background, part of it, is in working with music labels and music publishing and talented people, and I used to be a producer and music engineer, so I know how the process is. All of the highly talented people, their inspiration or this talent is coming through their clairaudience. They just hear things in their head, and then they know, using a guitar or a keyboard or whatever it is, their preferred instrument, to play this music that's coming through their intuition. And that's how they create original songs and scores and so on. It just comes through. They hear it within, and then they play it out. They reproduce it, right? They allow it to come out. So this is how intuition works. There are four predominant ways, and there are other ways, but those four are the most expressed. Clairvoyance, meaning you see things that you don't see with your eyes, visions that come to you. Clairaudience, you hear things, but not with your ears. Things you hear within that come from somewhere randomly. Things you feel about your environment, about the people you are, and so on. You get, again, the gut feeling. Like, oh, something is right, something's wrong. I should be cautious, and so on. And claircognizance, or just like me, getting downloads with these amazing ideas all of a sudden, just as you walk or do something random. Because usually, when it comes down to intuition, unless you have a highly developed intuition, which in my case is not there yet, but I'm working on it every single day, it's usually random. And it's sporadic. There is no, time of the day or time of the week, or you cannot predict when your intuition is going to deliver you a message. It just comes out of the blue. There are ways to start training this, but this is advanced training that one day, if there is enough people interested, I can organize a workshop and teach you how to actually get into a state where you can get into a highly intuitive state of mind, where ideas, visions, and ability to see things can come about. But this takes training and time. But as you go along your waking hours and so on, your intuition will come through in different times in different ways. So here is the question I have for you. I want you to sit down and reflect on this, on those moments when maybe random ideas just came to you, but not just random nonsense ideas, but great ideas about things to create, a business to build, or something, invention, whatever it could be. Or you hear music, or some voices, or you see things. You have these, amazing visions, like little short movies that play in your head, or you get these feelings and sensations about, oh, this person is full of shit, or I should be careful, this doesn't feel right, right? I want you to reflect on this and think about it. How is your intuition expressing yourself within you? This is very important, right? Because once you recognize this, then you can be conscious of it and keep your awareness open to it for the next time it will present itself. Because here is an important thing. Even though we all have intuition and it's expressed within us in various ways, what is necessary, or what at least in my life have really helped me to connect with my intuition, has been my daily, regular meditation practice. Why? Because meditation allows your mind, or allows you to train your mind to slow down, to shut off all the mental chatter, all this non-stop blah, 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 blah thoughts and stuff that goes on in your head 24/7 in your waking hours. And you have this space where there is just calm and peace, and you can think whenever you want. Meaning that you're the one who set thoughts or create the thoughts, rather than the thoughts like waves in the ocean constantly bombarding you like there's just all this noise, right? Because intuition is something that is quiet, especially initially, it's quiet. And if you have all this background noise from your thoughts all of the time, it's really hard to hear it. So I do recommend that if you don't have yet a regular meditation practice, this is something that you should definitely develop, because the benefits are numerous, and I'm going to create a whole new different talk about going deep into the benefits and how to do meditation and so on, but this is not the topic of this discussion. However, the one thing that's going to make a significant difference in your ability to perceive your intuitive calls would be to start meditating if you haven't started yet. This would be one of the biggest ways to create space, to carve out some space for your intuitive perception to express itself. Because again, if there's too much background noise, it's really hard to hear it. Just imagine for a moment, you have your music on, and then you stop, you drive your car, you have your music on, you stop by the light, and then there's this car pulling out right next to you in the other lane, just banging their music even louder than yours. They have these like subwoofers and everything is boom, boom, bam, bam, and you cannot even hear your own music in the car. So this is kind of how it is, with your mind always constantly running with all this just mental chatter and nonsense. You have this bang, 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 bang all the time, or your intuition, not maybe, but your intuition is this very calm and gentle classical music that, unless this other car moves on, you would never hear. So this is why meditation is such a powerful daily practice that allows you to really start tapping into your intuition on a whole new level. Now, as I mentioned, intuition is something that's been heavily researched. And in the scientific community, or like more formal ways, called an extrasensory perception, or ESP. A very interesting thing you can look into is the Stargate project, which is a partnership between CIA and Stanford University that lasted about 20 years, since from 1975 to 1995, when the CIA spent over $20 million and 20 years of research into extrasensory perception, or developing intuition for spying purposes. It was a remote viewing study, meaning they were training people that are already very highly intuitive, with highly developed intuition, to see people who can see, again, using their clairvoyant ability, or this ability to see outside, or not with your eyes, but with your mind's eye, things beyond space and time. And they were using it to spy on Russians, for example, in the Cold War. And it was extremely successful. There is a documentary on this topic. I forgot the specific name, but I'll add it down into the comments. I'll look it up later. I watched it some time ago. It was an extremely interesting documentary. It's actually talking about the main subjects of the study, or those people that are actually the extrasensory perception or intuitive subjects of the study, that were the spies, or viewing information that's unavailable again to the human eyes. Because with intuition, again, this is something very important to start wrapping your head around, that through your intuitive ability, you can see things in the past, you can see things in the future, or know them, or hear them, and so on. Space and time does not exist beyond the physical. In the intuitive space of information, or this place where intuition comes from, space and time don't exist. So you have access to information beyond space and time. It was interesting that actually in the documentary, they were given an example how one of these people that were in the study, one of these remote viewing observers, as they were called, saw something. They give them a specific location they never visited. I'll explain how it works. They give them a specific location they have never visited. Just tell them, like, this place, this way, somewhere. They've never been there. And there is a person there, for example, and I want you to describe, well, where is this person? What is he doing? What is the environment around him, and so on. And one of the observers in the study described something very specifically and clearly of what it is. And they were like, oh, this is wrong. This is not there. However, somebody did a little deeper research and found out that what he described was what this place looked like exactly, but 40, 50 years ago. Exactly how it looked 40, 50 years ago. So time and space do not exist. And for example, another part of the study, and the leading person in that study was a police officer from Burbank, who was actually the most gifted person in that study, and he was some of his stats. The study was so advanced, right? Because this was during the time of the Cold War. One of the study was if he was able to see inside safe boxes on nuclear submarines underneath the ice sheets in the North Pole, to see what the launch codes for these nuclear missiles are. That was, again, they weren't trying to describe some store or something. This was a very advanced study using extrasensory perception to spy on Russia, or to see the other part of it was, right, because just as you can spy on someone else, they can spy on you too, because there is no door or way to block this, again, because it's beyond the physical, it's beyond space and time. So that must have been the other big concern that the CIA, or the Central Intelligence Agency, had. Like, are Russians able to spy on them and collect information that's secret and they don't want them to have? And how, for example, how can they protect it where they can hide it so nobody gets to see it? And again, this highly intuitive person, that's police officer from Burbank, actually eventually was either poisoned or died in a very mysterious way, which shows or has a very high probability that he was actually taken out by maybe KGB or CIA themselves, because he knew too much, and he had the abilities to have access to information through his intuitive perception that he should have no knowledge of. And This must have been scary to someone. And the most interesting thing is because these documents now have been declassified because after 20 years by law, all of these so-called secret missions or projects and so on have to be declassified. And if you read in the document, they state that there is no solid proof that extrasensory perception is something real or it works. However, I'm going to ask you something, just a simple analytical and critical thinking exercise. Would you be doing, if you're CIA, a study for 20 years if it didn't work? I mean, seriously, like, you're gonna try for 20 years, spend millions of dollars on it because it didn't work. Like, you're not gonna realize if it didn't work for 5 years that it doesn't work. Huh? Interesting, right? And you're gonna go for another 5 years, and then for another 5 years, and then finally on year 20, right, you awake from this dream and you're like, oh, this shit doesn't work. Who the fuck does that? Seriously. It doesn't make sense. And like, it's very interesting how they put it, because they don't want people to understand that there are people out there that they can train their abilities to have access to whatever information they want, because again, they're tapping into a dimension that's beyond the physical, right? That's why it's very important for you to keep an open mind through this conversation. Because whether you think you can, or you think you can, or you think it's possible and impossible, is going to define if it is or if it isn't for you. And I know it's possible for everyone who wishes to be. So this is a very real world example of how intuition or intuitive perception has been used for spying and collecting information and doing all kinds of spy stuff, right? Because it works, not because it doesn't. I do recommend, if you're interested, just from the perspective of convincing your rational, logical mind that this is something actual and true and tangible, from the perspective that yes, this thing works, because I know it does. It works for me, and I can guarantee you, if you know how to tap into it and discover how it's, again, expressing itself within you, you will be able to use your intuition, if not daily, at least very often when necessary. And again, meditation is a tool that will definitely allow you to tap into your intuition on a whole new level. So if you don't meditate, begin, or develop the desire within you to do so. How, or what is the explanation here? Why is it that, again, we have a logical mind and then we have this creative, intuitive side of the mind, or this space of these ideas? Here's a very interesting fact. We have a left side of the brain and a right side of the brain. The left side is linear thinking, logic, rationale. Has to do with facts and details, right? Mathematics, you name it, always with exactitude. And it's a very precise tool when you want to cut or make a decision or so on based on fact and so on. So if you're an engineer or an accountant or something like this, using the rational mind is, again, it's critical thinking, which is a highly effective tool. But if only you rely on critical thinking, it's like having scissors as the only tool in life to deal with life, and all you can do is cut. Well, it's great to make a decision, because decision means to cut off something. But life is not just about decisions or cutting off things, because no matter how thin you slice something, there's always going to be two sides to it. Right? Doesn't matter how thin the slice is. There's always going to be side A and side B. So by just cutting, you cannot really get to the depths of it. You need another tool. And this other tool is the right side of the mind, or the creative, intuitive side of the mind. The part of the mind that deals with symbolism, metaphors, creativity, ideas, intuition, and so on. It allows you to tap into a different dimension. This is why in most cases, especially in the Western world, where, you know, when you go to school, all you taught of is all this very linear and in the box kind of thinking, and even through school, right? Because there's creativity or music, art, and none of those things are very much so in a way promoted or taught to kids anymore. Or, you know, even in my time, at least I was lucky growing up in Eastern Europe. We actually did have music class in school and painting class in school and all these kind of like creative things to keep your creativity bubbling and going, because this is part of that right side of the brain, and this is how you stimulate it, right? Because if you want to stimulate your left side of the brain, which you do all of the time, is by, you know, thinking about things and calculating things and making goals and making notes and so on. But if you want to stimulate your right side of the brain, you need to listen to music, paint something, create something, do something outside of the box, right? So this is how you stimulate it. And also, a very interesting fact is that the right side of the brain controls or commands the left side of the body. And the opposite, the left side of the brain creates or controls the right side of the body. So, if you, let's say, predominantly use your right hand for things, you're simulating only your left side of the brain. So in order to stimulate your right side of the brain, this is a little hack of how to start getting your right side of the brain and creative, intuitive, and so on brain and juices flowing more, is to start using your left hand more. Brush your teeth, eat with it, all not critically important tasks you have to do around the day. Instead of using your right hand, use your left hand. That way you'll start stimulating it, because through the physical motion of the body, you stimulate the part of the mind that controls it. This is something interesting to think about and practice. Using your left hand more is, again, especially if your predominant hand is the right one, use your left hand. I would imagine if you already are naturally a left-handed person, then you're probably very creative already, because you cannot not be if you're already stimulating your right side of the brain on such a level. Because again, intuition is perceived through somewhere, and it's through the right side of the brain, or how we connect to it. Now, as I already mentioned, right, how do you begin or start using your intuition? This is the topic of the discussion first. If you haven't yet, I do recommend highly that you start a daily meditation practice. This will allow you to carve out space for your intuition to come through. The second thing I just mentioned and offered is using your left side or left hand for a lot of things. If you're predominantly right-handed, start using your left hand for a lot of the tasks during the day that don't necessarily need to be critically done in a perfect way, right? Because it's going to take you a while to get used to it. I'm still getting used to it, and I've been doing it for a long, long time. Training and, you know, using my left hand almost as my right hand, because my right hand is the predominant hand. But I always make an effort to use my left hand, because it stimulates the right side of my brain, which is my intuitive brain, and yours, and so on. So this is something I do recommend. Now, the next thing you want to start doing from here on is, as soon as your intuition expresses itself within you, however it is, even if either being through you seeing something within you, hearing something within you, feeling something within you, or getting this download and ideas within you, is for you to take action on that message, for you to recognize it, for you to be like, oh yeah, okay. Instead of doubting it, instead of sitting down and analyzing it critically, take action on it. Because the more action you take on your intuitive information, the more it's gonna start to show up. Because just like a guest, take this for example, analogy. If a guest comes to your house and they're not welcome, do you think they will return? Maybe one more time, but for the most part, once they realize that they're not welcome and you're not a nice host, they're probably not going to be very excited to be your guests anymore, would they? So it's same with your intuition. The only way you can show it that it's welcome is not only for you to be open when it comes, but to take action on it, because it gives it validity, right? Always take action. Always take action on your intuitive impulse. When it comes down, this intuitive inspiration, impulse, idea, whatever it is, take action on it. Now, there's a caveat to this, and that is this, that whatever your intuition is telling you to do doesn't mean that it's going to happen, right? I don't want you to think that because your intuition told you this is exactly what's going to happen. This is not the case, but the intuition is there to inspire you, to get you to do something that you have to do in order to, let's say, take a path that's going to take you to a place that's better for you, eventually. Maybe not right away, again, by taking action on this intuition, but by following through, you can be sure that this information is coming from a place that cares for you. And it will be a lot more wonderful, again, and extraordinary and magical if you allow it to guide you there. Because here's a very interesting question that Einstein himself said was the most important question that any human being should ask themselves in their lifetime. And that was, do I live in a friendly universe? Meaning that, is the world out there to get me? Or is the universe, or this universe of force and energy that creates this whole existence, there to help me? Here is my suggestion. This is my belief, but beliefs are the software that allows us to live life up to the fullest, or or the exact opposite, or destroy our lives and, if anything, disempower us to have anything different but a mediocre life. So the belief is, or my belief is, that I live in a benevolent universe that conspires to keep me happy, healthy, wealthy, successful, loved, and desired. Whether or not this is true doesn't matter. This is my belief. So that why, or by holding this belief, I know that by following through on my intuition, my intuitive impulses and guidance, I'm going towards my benefit, or I'm going towards a direction that serves me more and serves my growth and allows me to serve folks just like you are, or just like you, because this is something I truly enjoy doing and I'm truly passionate about. So I follow. Every time my intuition shows up, I follow on it. I follow on it. I give it validation. I appreciate it every time these ideas, again, in my case, it comes in a form of these downloads of ideas that are totally not mine. They just come from somewhere into my mind and quickly disappear. So I have to be, again, able to create the space and hear them when they come through, and then to respect them and take action, to show them that are actually welcome in my house. They're the guests that I want to have all the time. If it was possible, I want to have them 24/7. Not yet, but we're getting there, making progress. So this is something that you can also do to enhance the presence of intuition in your life. The next step you can actually take to train not just one aspect, but all aspects of your intuitive perception is visualization. maybe you have done this before, maybe not, maybe you've heard it somewhere, by sitting down, closing your eyes, and imagining, using your imagination or mind's eye to see, feel, hear, and touch things happening in your imagination. Because when you do this, you're actually training each and every one of those aspects of your intuition. So sitting down in a quiet space, especially if you meditate daily, after meditation, when your mind is very quiet and you're very calm and relaxed, sitting down for 5, 10, even 30 minutes. Usually once you get deep into it, time starts to fly because you lose sense of time. Because you go into a different dimension where you can create and shape anything you want. So this is a great way to exercise it, right? To exercise your intuitive abilities. And not only is it good to exercise your intuitive abilities, but it's been proven that people that mentally, with their imagination, exercise, for example, physically, they see themselves doing an exercise, actually have 20% gains or even more to their musculature and body. So not only is it helping you train your intuitive perception, but it's also helping you train, for example, your body. So if you're imagining yourself doing something physical that you wish you're able to do, right? Whatever that might be, that's just one example. So let's take, for example, maybe you want to learn to skydive, right? With parachute. You can imagine that you're skydiving and you're learning how to do it, right? And you will have developed the ability to do so. Obviously, I don't recommend doing it without any actual training in person, but you'll definitely start to get to install the wiring in your neural network. But my point is, since it's in your imagination, do something extraordinary. Don't use it to go and do something normal and boring, right? Do something outside of the box, something that allows you to stretch your limits. For example, something I love to do is I see myself, again, this is using my imagination, sitting down and envisioning this within my mind's eye. And not only do I envision it, but I make sure that I also feel it within my body. I allow these sensations to be within my body. I hear it. I hear the noises. I hear the voices. I hear the sounds. I smell the air, the flowers, or whatever the picture I am. I feel the air on my skin, and so on. So, for example, I see myself walking through on my patio and growing a huge set of wings like 𝗞𝗲𝘆 or one of these angels, and literally jumping off and flying off my patio down the Californian coast, enjoying the views and coming back. So what you do in your visualization, limitless, right? You can do and imagine anything you want. As far as you can take your imagination, feel free to do it. This is how you can actually start to train those abilities to hear, touch, see, smell, and sense things beyond your extrasensory or your physical senses. So you start to develop your extrasensory perception. This is a way to train those abilities on a daily basis. Again, intuition is like a muscle. The more reps you do, the stronger it gets. If you want strong intuition, do the reps. The results will be there. I can guarantee you this because I can see the results in my life. The things I teach, the things I preach about, there are things that have experimented with and delivered results in my life. I don't like theory. I'm a very pragmatic and like straight to the point person. I take the moment, again, because my intuition is highly expressed in this way. When I know when something is true or it's not, in an intuitive way. I read something, no matter how it stretches my beliefs and so on, or how contradictory it might be to my beliefs, I have a feeling right away, oh, this is true. Let me try it. Let me test it out. Let me put it to the test and see what results it yields. And all of my teachings are based on this very fact. I test out everything. If it delivers results, I'll share it with the world. If it doesn't, move on to the next thing. So that's why my invitation again was to keep an open mind. This is a conversation that requires a very open mind. And obviously, if you're going to go out there and apply what you learned today here, you want to have an open mind and be open to how your intuition will start to show up in your life, and you taking action and then being inspired by taking that action to take even more action, and your intuition starting to show up in all these different ways in your life. It's an amazing, amazing, amazing skill to develop. And as I mentioned earlier, we have eyes because we can see. We have ears because we can hear. We have a nose because we can smell. It's not the other way around. So I want you to be aware of this and train your intuitive abilities every day and create the space by meditating. Carve out the space so you can start to hear, see, sense, or know when your intuition shows up, because it does show up. Everyone has it. It's a universal skill that all human beings have and are capable of, but just like anything else, like riding a bicycle, you're not born able to use that skill. You can develop it. It's already there, but unless you train and put the time, chances are you're not going to be able to ride a bicycle if you don't learn how to do it, right? And practice it. It's the same thing. If you put the time and you do the reps, your intuition will develop and you'll be able to tap to it. And it's the most beautiful place to come through. I cannot, again, express how grateful I am personally in my life for the amount of intuition or the intuitive insights and ideas and downloads I get all the time. Like just this week, I must have had at least good 3 to 4 amazing downloads that have been giving me the opportunity to create something completely new that I'm really excited about, that I'll be working on. But this has been the case before and before, and the more I take action, the more I listen to it, the more it shows up. The more it shows up. And it's just amazing because I no longer sit down and when I have a challenge in my life, either professionally, personally, or whatever, and like look and sit down and contemplate and go over and over and over and just worry and like overthink and burn myself out by sitting and thinking the same thoughts, not going anywhere. I have something that I want to solve. I know what it is. I clearly ask myself, how do I do this? And I let go. Let's just go about my day or my week and so on. And all of a sudden, just from nowhere, as I'm just doing something completely unrelated to my challenge or what I'm trying to solve, just like this, like magic, boom, my download comes. And it's the most beautiful thing. And luckily, again, I meditate every morning, and I've been doing it for a very long time. So every time it shows up, it's always heard. It always registers, and I make a note right away. I had a one today again. Like I have an intuitive perception probably every single day sometimes. And it's a beautiful place to be. And again, the more you develop this muscle, the more it begins to show up in your life. And all you have to do is first believe that you can, believe that you have it, and then start creating space and training. I've given you plenty of tools. In the coming weeks, as things are starting to normalize, I'm looking forward to starting again hosting my workshops in person. I would love to see you there. Hope that this was very helpful and you learned a lot of valuable knowledge and insights by watching this hour-long or so video. I always love serving you. Down below, I've added plenty of resources that you can take advantage of, and I hope that you do. I offer a complimentary 1-hour full coaching session during which we can go over and address any challenge or an opportunity you want to either overcome or take advantage of in your life. I'm here to serve you powerfully. This is what fulfills me, and if I can be of service and add value, it makes me even happier. So please go ahead and book your coaching session. I've also included a link to my 5-day online challenge, which will allow you to transform yourself or begin the process of holistically transforming every aspect of yourself in your life to start building and creating the base for the extraordinary life you deserve and you're meant to have. Also, I've created an amazing online Facebook group where we share a lot of ideas. I share a lot of resources too, and the idea is to grow it into a mentorship community where I can share with you a lot more insights and help you every week, and have a lot of live calls and community calls and so on. So by all means, please go ahead and sign up. Also, please, if you think that this was a great video, you learn a lot of things, like the video, share it with your friends that you think can benefit from getting this knowledge as well. Leave me a comment or a question if you have one. I'll be happy to answer it. And yeah, again, there are amazing workshops coming in next month. Once again, I'm happy that finally things are starting to get to whatever new normal is gonna be. It looks very interesting out there in the world today, and I look forward to meeting you. Thank you for tuning in. I love serving you powerfully. My goal is to empower you, inspire you, and educate you so you have the tools to go and build the extraordinary life you deserve and discover and unleash your greatness, because we all are born with amazing gifts to share with this world, and this is what we're here to play full out, share our gifts, and have an amazing experience. Go out there and have an amazing day. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.